Content warning. This podcast contains bones, blood, smut, and swear words.
Before we get into the good shit this week, we wanted to remind you that we have launched a Patreon. So for just $1 an episode, you can get access to a brand new game every month. Plus, of course, John's fabled murder boards. Mine are few and far between. So if you would like more of our shenanigans, head on over to patreon.com/frontlinefifth or follow the link in the show notes. Now, back to that sweet, sweet Bone Zone action.
Act 1. Welcome, penitents. Hello and welcome back to the Frontline Fifth, a locked tomb podcast where newly minted lictors, barely out of their teen years, explore the locked tomb series for the first time, while a couple of dried out bone witches cackle over how little they really know. We're just starting our second season. Pause for applause or air horn, which means we are currently...
You didn't pause.
I just thought it'd be funny to say it. Which means we are currently reading Harrow the Ninth by Tamsin Muir. And this week, we are leaving our bodies behind in a cocoon of permanent bone and wading into the river to find deeper meaning in the Prologue and Parados. I'm Hannah, and I'll be your spirit guide this week, but I'm finding it hard to trust reality because I've gone insane. Not recently, that's always been true, but it's why I'm so lucky to have fellow bone witch and lictor extraordinaire, Marie. Marie, what's your typical first thought when you look down and see a sword sticking through your middle?
Typical is doing a lot of heavy lifting in that sentence. I don't have a typical first thought. I don't know that I would have any coherent thoughts.
I think that's fair.
It is fair.
It's not a fun answer, but it's a real answer.
Also here with us today, the newest saints of our King Undying, his tiny little fingers and gestures, it's Brooke and John. Brooke, John, what do you think would go through your head when you realize you've been stabbed with your own sword?
I kind of think I might have some morbid curiosity about this. I say this because I'm actually a giant squeamish person. There's a reason I never went down the medical school route, never even considered it. Guts, gore, yuck, no, it's a no for me. I get queasy just thinking about it. And yet the other day I sliced my finger with a peeler. It didn't bother me. I kind of was just examining the flap, seeing what was going on underneath. And I was like, okay, I guess when it's me, I'm curious. So we're looking in there.
Amazing. John, what about you?
Honestly, I would feel betrayed because it looks like the sword went through Harrow's back. So it's assuming she didn't stab herself.
John, you're getting too far into this already.
When you get stabbed with your own sword in the back, it's got to be a feeling of betrayal.
Checks out.
I'm imagining what's going through my head is whatever went through Julius Caesar's head.
Yeah. And I got to tell you, when I look down at my middle and see my own rapier sticking through, I think, not again. I've been looking forward to starting this book for a fucking myriad. So let's quit it with the dilly-dallying. What are your first impressions of Harrow the Ninth?
So, what the fuck, basically, right?
Tell me more, Brooke.
Yeah.
Okay, so a notable number of my rampant speculations were moot as early as the Dramatis Personae, which is very upsetting. I wouldn't say I feel grounded or anything.
Fair enough.
So far, we're not even in the first chapter, and I already am feeling like a walking, Dunning-Kruger effect here, where, in Gideon, I didn't know how much I didn't know, and so, I could go through it with a feeling that, oh, we're learning a lot, and now I have, a decent foundation, enough to be so fucking confused by the beginning of this book that
it is perfect, John. We were we understand where we're going with this, and then the very beginning, you're like, we have no idea where this is going.
This could be a really deep reference, but have you seen Men in Black? I'm sure you've seen
Yes.
Men in Black, but do you remember the end of Men in Black?
No.
Which one?
The only one that was any good, the first one.
No, I don't remember.
The very end of Men in Black is they walk through a random door in the building, and they open it, and it opens out into an entire galaxy that's contained in the door. That's basically how I felt. It's oh, this was a cool adventure, but look at all this behind door number 2.
God damn it, this really was a prequel.
Yes.
Maria, do you have any big thoughts now that we started Harrow?
Oh man, this is delicious. I basically had to listen again this morning to be what do they know currently?
very little.
So that I don't fuck up.
Thank you.
I too feel very grateful, actually, that we had Gideon the Ninth to practice not spoiling things, because it's going to be much harder moving forward. I think, for the next two books. Yeah, the things that you don't know are just so vast and expansive, and we know so many of them.
And it seems like there's a lot of Easter eggs being planted left and right.
Could be.
Also, the memes per chapter. We'll cover this a little bit. The memes per chapter. Holy hell!
Went through the roof. I sorry to bring the comedy down a little bit, but part of why I love Harrow, and I know a lot of people really struggle with reading this book. It's a hard book to read, but part of the reason I love it is because I am a person who is insane. I am a person who has hallucinated. I am a person who has had to constantly question whether what I'm experiencing is reality, and it's so clear to me that Tamsin's been there. The way this is written is so enormously authentic. The ways in which you clinicalize it and pull yourself back from it, the little checks you do in your mind. And it's a really incredible experience, actually, to read this book. So I feel super seen this week. Before we get into the scooshy organs and whatnot beneath the surface of these chapters, I wanted to take a moment to talk about the most important part of any book, the Dramatis Personae. So, Brooke, do you want to tell us a little bit about who does and doesn't get name-checked in the Dramatis Personae?
Oh, do I ever. Okay. So I think we start with just a quick overview of kind of the classes of people we have in here, and then we'll get a little bit more into the details. Okay, so the Dramatis Personae, we get told that we're going to be seeing the Emperor, and then he has a apparently dead guardian, AL. Dead is indicated by being crossed out. We have 7 saints that are also lictors.
Can I point out another thing is that AL is in quotations, suggesting that is not the guardian.
We're getting to the details.
Oh, sorry.
We're starting with the overview.
Oh, I thought we were just going to jump right in. I'm sorry.
Okay.
I'm always rushing the foreplay a little.
That's cool. Thank you for sharing, Marie. Okay, so we have the Emperor and his guardian. We have 7 saints and lictors, or 7 saint lictors, and their dead calves. And what we see is that only lictor saints number 1 through 3 are still alive. This is Augustine, Mercy Morn, and Ortis. I think, given the names of the last names of their cavaliers, they're from the 5th, 8th, and 2nd house, respectively. We also have an extra, presumable lictor, but who is not a saint. This is Anastasia. I don't know how we're going to say this.
It's Anastasia.
Okay, Anastasia the First and her cavalier. She is not a saint, I guess. So she seems to be from the 9th house, given her cavalier's name. I guess remember that, the 9th house wasn't supposed to survive. Maybe that's why she's not a saint. I don't know. But anyway, Anastasia and Samael, her cav, are both dead, as indicated by being crossed out. We also have lictor saints number 8 and 9 in Ianthe and Harrow, but Gideon's name is super errored out, like a horror movie style, where the text keeps writing over itself, whatever that means. So that's who we have in the Dramatis Personae. We've got the Emperor, 7 lictor saints, an extra lictor who was not a saint, and then our newest lictor saints, Ianthe and Harrow. More details, so we have AL in quotes. This is the guardian. So this is almost a nickname. If we're going really into details, it indicates that there's something weird about the name. Yeah. The next funny thing we have with names is that Ortis is capitalized. When do we capitalize names? I can think of 2 cases. First, I can think of the case where you're a robot and your name is an acronym.
Interesting.
Or second, it's when you've released an EP.
No lies. I can't. Nope. I can't fault your logic there. That's correct. Her.
Yeah. So which one do you think it is?
Not sure where Ortis's capitalized name is coming from, given those 2 categories. I can't think of a third, though. Third time that we capitalized names. Oh, we also have met the Cavaliers that were being referenced at the end of a sermon on Cavaliers and Necromancers. So this was the quote that said, Valency says 1 flesh, 1 end. Sounds like the instructions for a sex toy. Can't stop thinking about that. So can someone please stop Chris and Alfred before the sex toy phrase catches on things? Those 3 names, Valency, Chris, Alfred, they're all Cavaliers of the Saints. And then conspicuously missing from this list is another Gideon or any like G and P combo, unless there's something to uncover from like Ortis's name, because I don't know, but Ortis is apparently alive, so I don't think that could make sense to be some sort of Gideon Reborn theory that we had going on. But yeah, I think those are the clues that I picked up. Did I miss anything, John?
I was thinking about GMP, but I literally didn't go through and check. So like, thank you for doing that, because yeah, that's very interesting. And then I started doing what I should have done a long time ago when we did the first book, which was like just Googling the names to like try to see like what historical references pop up for them.
Uh-huh.
So like Augustine the First was the first emperor of Rome. Like when Rome transitioned from a democracy to a republic, he was Julius Caesar's nephew. Like again,
And he's the first saint, right?
Yep. We've got multiple Roman references already this podcast. As I said, Rome is my Roman Empire.
Good to have you here.
Yes. Alfred, I don't know anything about that. I always just think of the butler.
That's
from
where I go
Batman.
too. I'm so glad that I'm not alone in that.
Yeah.
I honestly, yeah, okay, go on.
I think that's all of us.
Yeah.
We're like, yeah, Alfred, he was like the Cav.
Yeah, he pretty much was. And he's a fucking huge deal. Like, oh God, Alfred does not get enough play. Should we make like a mini series that's just, you know what, we'll come back to it.
So then just skipping on Pyrrha was basically the inspiration for, I believe, the flood, the like Noah's Ark, right? Like it's in Roman mythology, she and her husband are the people that survived the flood sent by Zeus to end the Bronze Age.
They're the only survivors.
Deep cut in mythology.
Based on how deliberate the naming was last time,
Sometimes.
and I think I've learned my lesson at least. If we just go with like the face value as opposed to trying to go like 3 layers into the onion.
Yeah, go by vibes or direct interpretation.
Yeah.
But she does love an illusion, so I get it. The other really fun addition we get before we even get into this book is an update to the epigraph. So, John, do you want to read us the updated poem? And then are there any interesting takeaways there that we should be paying attention to?
So the addition to the epigraph is basically we now have the first house. It has joined the rest of them. And I actually had to go back and read to make sure I was missing anything else. But it now reads, 1 for the emperor, first of us all, 1 for his lictors who answered the call, 1 for his saints who were chosen of old, 1 for his hands and the swords that they hold, which is very interesting. So it seems like we're still drawing a line between lictors and saints, right? Like you can become a lictor without becoming a saint, which is what Anastasia seemed to have done. And then 1 for his hands, which seem to be different than the saints, and the swords that they hold. Are those like 3 different tiers of lictor, basically? Like, do you have like your like lictor who didn't choose to become a saint, and then do you have saints above that, and then do you have like hands, which are like the people literally out there fighting, like and doing the emperor's will?
I could give you an additional interpretation that the lictor is the combination and the saint is the necro and the hand is the cav.
I like that.
They can all be a lictor or a saint or a hand, just depending on how you're referring to them, but it's like the 3 aspects of being a lictor.
I think it's interesting no matter what. It is like everybody else gets 1 line, the first house gets 4, and 3 of them are about lictory type people. Okay, so this has all been fascinating, but we really came here for the meme watch. So I know that John and Marie have some dibs on which ones they get to tell us about. Tell us about some of the memes.
Yeah, John has his dibs, so head us out.
At least for me, I think the very cover itself is a meme. Just looking at it.
I did not catch this, but I think it's funny. I also don't think that we can lay that at Tamsin's
What do you mean?
feet.
Tell us.
Just that illustrators often, like, they have direction or they're given kind of like a way to think about the book, but they're not being like directed by the author saying this is what I want the book cover to be.
Okay, so what about it is Mimi?
It looks like it's almost a copy of the distracted boyfriend meme. Where there is
with the skeletons.
So the distracted boyfriend meme, if you haven't seen it, is there's a woman walking in a red dress towards the camera. I know because I'm looking at it right now, not because I've memorized it.
I mean,
little column A, little column B.
A couple with the guy, they're holding hands walking the opposite direction, but the boyfriend has turned around to stare at the woman from behind and is making like a an oh damn face, and then his girlfriend is staring angrily at him. Unbelievable. And if you take a look at the cover, there's a skeleton definitely staring at him from behind, and then a skeleton staring at that skeleton. So it's in the same like left to right.
Oh, yeah. I will bet money she chose
that.
it.
That's my meme. I'll leave the rest to Marie here.
The 3 that I know are Choke Me Daddy, My Body is Ready, and I Tried, so no one should criticize me.
I love that.
And then I have another little kind of thing. We just had some fun right before we started recording where I was trying to look up the very specific choke me daddy meme of Obama putting the medal, what is it? The Medal of Honor? Medal of Freedom?
Yeah.
Medal of Freedom on Biden, and the text says choke me daddy.
That's pretty funny.
I actually don't know. I just know that My Body is Ready is a meme. I don't know the origin of that one. Do you know the specific, like?
Yes, it actually is from the one of the executives of Nintendo of America when they were doing the original presentation for the Wii.
You're shitting me.
They like brought him up on stage and he was like going to demonstrate it, and he says, "My body is ready," to like demonstrate the Wii, and like it just became like a meme for anticipation of anything or anything else. You can find there.
Oh my
it's got
God,
its
I had
own
no
Know Your
idea
Meme
this had
page.
an actual origin. I thought this was one of those things that
Yes.
just like spontaneously generates into the world. Good God.
No, it's really awkward and hilarious looking.
And video game presentations again, because she a video game nerd. Thank God we have John here.
I don't know the so no one should criticize me.
Neither do I.
I sent you guys a link to
Yeah.
an SNL skit, and it's like actually not even that funny of an SNL skit. It's like an old skit. I think it's like 2011 or something.
The little baby Daniel Radcliffe.
It's making fun of millennials, and it's got baby Daniel Radcliffe, and like basically it's like some.
It's all participation trophies, and if you tried, it's good enough, and you can do whatever you want. Do you want to stay or do you want to go? That's totally fine. And we all tried, so no one should criticize us.
Yeah. And so, yeah, Daniel Radcliffe says, "I tried, so no one should criticize me." And I think that clip got like taken and memed out of SNL.
I watched that clip and I did not pick up that you were trying to share a meme. It's like, this is not exactly funny.
You're like, this is no murder.
Yeah.
Exactly.
The last thing that I want to point out is that our chapters that we get a prologue. And so that we know that a prologue is like, it's like a little preview before you start into the chapters of your book. And then you can have an epilogue that is like after like the main action and the main climax and like the what am I trying to say? Like the denouement of everything is resolved. Then you can have a little epilogue, the denouement. Thank you. It's another one of those.
I learned that word from
like you
Lemony
read it
Snicket.
and you never say it. Yes, it's the denouement. Thank you very much. And this is why we're never going to have any French listeners. They're all German. It's fine. Anyway.
We can offend our German listeners too if we want.
Anyway, we have this new thing that isn't like something that you usually see in a book, which is Parados. And Parados is from Greek play or Greek tragedy structure. And the Parados is when the chorus comes out to basically introduce the play.
So, Greek tragedy introduction.
Fascinating. Well, with Choke Me Daddy on Ianthe's lips, let's find out what all this chaos is about as we open the first...
That was so well done, Hannah. Frightening.
As we open the first pages of Harrow the Ninth in Season 2, Episode 1, Hell Spat You Back Out. Act 2, Dying is for Suckers.
This section of Frontline 5th is safe for anyone who hasn't read past the Parados and Harrow the Ninth.
Let's recap. Prologue. B. Skull. The night before the Emperor's murder. Harold's attack. You prepare to die. Stabbed with your own rapier.
The night before the Emperor's murder, you sit alone in near darkness in your room, listening to the thump, thump, thump of heralds just slamming themselves into the hull of the station. It's freezing cold. Occasionally you scream a little, which no longer embarrasses you.
Can we start here?
Are we going to talk about the voice already?
Oh, I was going to talk about the fact that it starts with, like, the second line in the book is the Emperor's murder.
Well, yeah, we're starting with the end, right?
Murder implies that he's, like, assassinated or killed, or, like, not killed, right? So, you know, like, Julius Caesar or JFK was assassinated. Like, if you die in a battlefield, you're killed. And so, like, the night before the Emperor's murder makes it sounds like...
Premeditated.
Certainly not an accident. Yeah. That's very interesting. I also, like, what's the opposite of burying the lead? Where you're like, by the way, God's gonna die.
So, like, this...
Potential red herring.
I don't know. It's pretty explicit.
Yeah. I mean, it's a good catch, though, ultimately. Like, okay, so in science communication, this is what we're supposed to do. You start with, here's the point, and then you go back, which is very different than we were trained as scientists, which is like, start with the background, build up complexity, build up the story until to make it understandable of how you got to your conclusion. This is, I think, actually truly more impactful, just in general. Like, already, before we've gotten to chapter
get to the end of the book,
before
you're gonna see the Emperor's murder.
But before we even got to chapter 1, I'm like, this is gonna be a very painful few months where we only get to read a couple chapters at a time. If we're already starting cannons blazing,
you're on the hook. Oh yeah, 100%.
The way that this is written, for some reason, I just want you to read the whole thing through and then we talk about it. I kind of want to let you be your drama queen self.
I will just do it then. All right, here we go. I'm going to start at the beginning then. The night before the Emperor's murder, you sit alone in near darkness in your room, listening to the thump of heralds slamming themselves into the hull of the station. It's freezing. Occasionally you scream a little, which no longer embarrasses you. God's voice over the comms tells everyone there's 10 minutes until the herald's breach. He's going to leave your door down as long as possible, which you resent. You can take care of yourself. God tells you that you'll be needed in the river, and while you're there, your necromancy won't work. You don't want him to baby you. He doesn't want you to be in such a hurry to die. The door to your quarters slides open, and your wards accept the entrance of Ianthe. She offers to protect you. She's there to warn you. No one is coming to save you. You're going to die. Ianthe tells you to turn around, undo what you've done. She can help. You tell her to go fuck herself. You have an argument. God tells you to get in place. Ianthe leaves. She tried, and therefore no one should criticize her. The heat starts to rise. You think about reading the letter addressed to you that reads, to open in case of your imminent death. The herald's breach. You shield yourself, knowing it's useless and perpetual bone. You begin your wade into the river where the resurrection beast is waiting, praying to the locked tomb and to the corpse within. You go to make war on hell. Hell spits you back out. You wake up in a pool of your own blood, your rapier poking through your stomach. You try to heal the horrible wound. You're only half a lictor, and half a lictor is worse than not a lictor at all. Far away, you hear the clash of swords. Your idiot dying mouth rounded out 3 syllables you do not understand.
So what's with the fucking second voice? That's like sort of second voice, second person, but like intended to be third person, but then just completely swapped around to make it second person?
Second person is such a fucking weird choice. There's literally one other book I can think of that does second person in a way that's brilliant. It's the Broken Earth trilogy. It's the 5th season by N.K. Jemisin, which I'm rereading right now. But it's like, it's such a rare thing to find that it throws you off. Like, it makes me very uncomfortable. It's hard to read.
Yes. I had to read the first page several times again. This is a theme that I have to read the first like few pages of Tamsin Muir's books because I'm like uncomfortable and I don't quite understand where we're going with things and why is it written like this. But this you here feels, when I was trying to, come to terms with it, my interpretation was almost as if I were Gideon still, and I was inside a Harrow part of her, observing her. So as if it's being told from Gideon's perspective of Harrow, from being inside Harrow and experiencing everything that is Harrow. That was the only way that I could make this make sense to me.
I was thinking, it might be Gideon either telling Harrow about it or just something along those lines, because at least this feeds into the conspiracy theory. It sounds like, because Harrow's body moves while she's in hell or the river or whatever, and has clearly been fighting. The sword is out. She's not where she laid down. She's out in the hallway. So I'm wondering if when she goes into the river, does Gideon take back over the body and go to fight and do stuff while the necromancer spirit is wandering around in the river doing stuff? But if that's the case, then why is she only half a lictor? Which makes me think that maybe she felt really bad about Gideon and tried to release her soul from being get her soul out of her body or release it. I don't know. It's really weird. I imagine it'll make sense as we read through, or maybe it won't ever make sense and this will just be drive me nuts. But yeah, we also just get the bugs as well, or
the heralds.
I thought bees because I've seen the videos of bees like cooking wasps to death as they like by just like moving really quickly and beating their wings to heat them up.
That makes sense. The bee balls.
Fucking terrifying.
In my head, I thought they were locusts. I thought it was like a plague of locusts because that's like a biblical thing that is sent as a punishment. But I think you're probably right about the bees. Also, the skull at the beginning, I did notice was an insect, but I looked up what a locust's face looks like, and it doesn't look like that. So I think bee is a good guess so far.
They're described as the dead couriers of a hungry stellar revenant. So like the ghost of a star, right? Or a ghost of like a planetary body, which is really, really interesting. Which feeds into our conspiracy that we had at the end of, or at least I had at the end of Gideon, which is that we're killing planets. Every chapter we just get more questions than answers. And it's been like that now for every single chapter of Gideon. And now we're not even into the actual chapters of Harrow. And I already have 1,000 questions.
Brooke and John, you kind of skipped over the conversation between Ianthe and Harrow. Do you have any thoughts about that back and forth or not really?
Yeah, that was really enjoyable to read, actually, because what you're watching is Harrow trying to pick up on Ianthe's motivations, right? And I really like the way that we are introduced to Harrow's thought process, because this is kind of, we're still in the early stages of getting to know Harrow from like her own perspective. And I love that she basically kind of leaves herself open to two options at the beginning, which is, either she's like genuinely worried for me or she has an agenda. Right. And we watch her like go through this conversation, picking out clues of, do I think it's more of she's trying to manipulate me versus she is genuinely concerned for me? And at the end of it, it's absolutely Ianthe has a motivation. She's trying to get something for her own self. That was what Harrow expected at the beginning. But then she like finally sees the one clue that she was expecting, which is that Ianthe gives up. She was like too excited about her like message, the goal she had. She like slips basically and like becomes less concerned feeling and more like excited for what she wants to happen. And Harrow goes, "Oh, fuck you."
Yes, he also has a golden arm.
Yes. So she was given a prosthetic, basically, right?
Yeah.
The Luke Skywalker arm.
Yes.
Seeing Harrow from another perspective, God, she's a bitch.
Harrow?
She's such a bitch. I think she's such a bitch. Like this prologue and then the Parados, just the shit that she says to people. Telling Ianthe, you should have killed your sister. Your eyes don't match
That is harsh.
your face.
But that is also like, okay.
Giving it as good as she gets.
That's how I feel about it too. I'm like, that is harsh, but it is also like they are having the prototypical cat fight in this moment. Like she's lashing out and she does have claws. But it's interesting. So like I feel differently. As I said, so like this book is complex and interesting for me. I sympathize so fucking deeply with Harrow. This is like why I love Harrow as much as I do. I love anyone who can commit to an aesthetic. I love her ambiance, but I loved her anyway from Gideon. But you can see like the amount of pain that she's in always and how tightly she's holding herself always is like visceral. She is holding it, everything by her fingernails and her teeth and holding it together, trying so hard. And even when she's being awful to Ortis, she's trying so hard to be patient. It's just hard to be patient with Ortis. She does not have a lot left over. So in fact,
especially when like that's a conversation you have like regularly.
Oh yeah. So let's skip over there. Meanwhile, back at the ninth house, Act 3, I feel as if we've had this conversation before.
Let's recap. Parados, broken ninth house skull. 14 months before the Emperor's murder. Ortis, cavalier, and poet. Harrow is insane. The body speaks.
All right. Well, in the myriadic year of our Lord, the Reverend daughter, Harrow Harknonagesimus, sits on a sofa and watches her cavalier read the letter from the Emperor. Ortis is slow and lugubrious as ever. Harrow tries really hard to keep her patience.
Lugubrious is such a good word.
Well, thank you. Ortis basically keeps saying over and over that he can't be her cavalier. He's just not good enough. It's only to honor his father that he stays in his post as Cavalier. And Harrow's like, I know. I've always fucking known. It is not a secret to anyone. You are not a good Cavalier. How could anyone mistake you for a swordsman? She just doesn't have a choice. And so Ortis suggests that perhaps Ortis Nigenad might be a better Cavalier. And Harrow says, what?
Okay, it's written as Ortis Nigenad in caps. All caps, again.
Yeah, Ortis
Sure.
gets capitalized in, this is interesting.
Yes, so...
But only here. His name shows up all over this chapter. It's only capitalized here, right?
Yes, and and so Harrow's saying, what? Is almost like in response to like hearing the capitalization somehow. Like, this is a weird little, like, almost it feels like breaking the fourth wall, like the first time that we're...
Yeah. What?
Maybe breaking the fourth wall.
I've gotten into the habit of every time I get confused by something, I immediately go back and reread like 3 paragraphs, and also trying to find where like the most recent dialogue links things together, because Tamsin loves doing this where she'll like say something important and then it's a page of other stuff and then it returns to that in point. And it happens a lot. And I like that was a pattern in the first book. So I was like trying to dig in this. But yeah, the fact that it's capitalized is really weird. And there's a currently alive lictor named Ortis, who I assume would probably be a very good Cavalier.
And there's just this funny feature throughout this Parados where she describes Ortis as being able to somehow like speak quotes, a quotation. And
He's
here,
quoting his
yeah, and then this feels a little bit like maybe the first time we're getting that theme where he's able to like speak like written stuff. So he's able to say the words Ortis Nigenad and like her to understand it as being capitalized and bolded. Whatever that means.
Are we getting like a little bit of like Deadpool style, like fourth wall self-awareness due to psychosis type?
Well, Ortis says that, he can't be her Cavalier. He's simply not good enough. He says it's only to honor his father that he stays in his post as Cavalier.
I feel like we've heard this one before.
What the fuck is wrong with this guy?
Ortis explains that he's among those who are fit but to hold a blade in the scabbard. And Harrow tries not to groan because Ortis is now quoting the Noniad, his own epic poem that is in its like 18th book or something, right? He's been working on it for years. It's this epic poem he's writing about the great ninth swordsman Matthias Nonius.
That's not 9 feet of anything.
Harrow's fucking dying here because Ortis is about to go into the Noniad. And in comes the serving sister wearing the face of the body. Nothing? No comments there? I feel like that's a big thing to say.
Immediate assumption is that the body is the body from the locked tomb. Like it's literally like the locked tomb body walking around.
The lovely face of the body. Harrow doesn't know which part of this is real, right? She gives some like options for herself. She's like, either the serving sister, not real, or the serving sister is real, but the face I'm seeing, not real.
She's looking for Ortis's reaction to be like, what is he noticing? Does he recognize that there's another like person that's walked in the room?
He does
Is
not.
He responding? He doesn't respond to it. She's like, I don't know if that's just because it's a serving sister and he's just ignoring her because she's a serving sister, or if he's ignoring her because she doesn't exist.
Social clues are minimal.
Yeah. She's like, okay, no way to know if it's a hallucination or if it's real. Cool.
Yeah. And this is something for the record that you do when you like grow up having this problem. So you find the people you can ask and you say, can you also hear music? Okay, good. And then the people that you can't ask already, you watch for their clues and mimic their body language so that you like, right? I mean, so this is like very real. Harrow tells Ortis that she needs more than a sword hand. And he looks at her with both bitterness and pity and says basically like, what else could you possibly need? And the body says, this isn't how it happens. It gives Harrow Hark a sort of strength. So she tells Ortis she needs him to hide her infirmity. You see, I am insane.
I like don't know what to do with this, right? Like,
yeah.
So, Hannah, you sharing that this is like truly experiences of hallucination and stuff, it has changed my thought process a little bit on this. Because at the beginning, I was like, I don't know, like maybe this isn't like insanity. Maybe this is like real stuff that's going on.
You should not let my
like,
personal experience inform how Tamsin has got shit going on underneath. Like, build your life separately from,
Well, I didn't have the sense of like the fact that this is how like hallucinations actually do play out, and like these are the checks that somebody who has experienced hallucinations would be going through it. So I didn't, in my head I was like, well, maybe she's not insane. Like, so, but like if she's, I don't know.
But what are the options? It's real. That person is real. It's a hallucination, or we're also in the
in a fantasy world.
We're in a fantasy world. Is it like a zombie thing? Is it a ghost? Is it something else?
I do think it's important that we say here the thing that we haven't said already, which is that this is literally like almost not shot by shot, but very, very similar to a chapter that happens in Gideon the Ninth, right? We should say that explicitly, that it's almost exactly a thing that happens between Harrow and Gideon at this exact same theoretical time point. Like it's so there's a complexity here. It's unclear which pieces are true.
Harrow reads this second letter to the Emperor.
To Gideon while sitting on a sofa and asks for what the implications are, no retainers, no attendants, and does the exact same thing here.
Yep. I have thoughts.
I feel like I'm taking crazy pills. So I guess it's probably time for a game. Interstitial. Choke me, daddy.
Again, you do that alarmingly well.
Well, to my greatest joy, we are back at the beginning again with a whole new set of characters that I know and loathe, but that you, dear darling children, know not at all. Which means, of course, that it's time for that third house classic party game, Fuck, Marry, Kill, or Resurrect. So let's just dive right in, shall we? FMKR, God, the Saint of Patience, the Saint of Joy, or the Saint of Duty.
We're marrying the Saint of Patience, we're fucking the Saint of Joy, we're killing the Saint of Duty, and we're resurrecting God.
Ooh. Do you want to...
I'm different.
Tell us why, though.
You marry the patient person.
That checks out. That's I get
it. I feel like fucking the Saint of Duty would not be fun.
I don't know. They might be. They might
not a
feel
bad thing.
The duty to be a giving lover.
I agree. I think that is a possibility.
We're fucking the Saint of Joy. And then resurrecting God.
Oh, wow. Okay, Brooke, what do you think?
I'm killing God because I don't need no God. I'm marrying the Saint of Joy because that's what I want. And I'm fucking the Saint of Patience because that sounds fun. And then we'll resurrect the Saint of Duty.
Lover.
Yeah. Okay. I like a lot of this. Okay, Marie?
I'm not going to explain mine at all. I am going to, we're already murdering God, so I'm going to kill God. That's fine. That's already happening. I'm not going to worry about it. I would resurrect the Saint of Patience. I would fuck the Saint of Joy. I really would. And that leaves marrying the Saint of Duty, and that seems fine.
That's okay.
That seems good.
I feel complicated feelings about this.
Is that because you guys know these characters already? Yeah, I wonder why.
Yeah. Okay, wait. I think I know who. I mean, these are our live saints, right? So Duty would be the second. Patience is probably the eighth, right? Maybe because they seem like that. And then we also have the fifth, right? So they would be Joy.
Okay, so here's the thing. I killed the Saint of Joy without any compunction.
Fair.
I resurrect the Saint of Duty for sure because I would like to spend more time with the Saint of Duty. And so here's where it gets tough for me. I think I have to marry the Saint of Patience based on like what's there, but I don't think we have a good marriage.
No.
No one wants to marry God.
Here's the thing. I do kind of want to fuck God. So I'm going to fuck God. I'm going to marry the Saint of Patience. I'm going to kill off the Saint of Joy and resurrect the Saint of Duty. Marie.
Wow. Marie. Wait, Marie is just shaking her head violently.
Oh, God.
Full body no.
Okay, let's just move right along. FMKR, Pyrrha, Loveday, Alfred, and Christabel.
I'm marrying Alfred because, again, I assume he's like the butler from Batman.
I like that.
And
okay, and dad jokes amongst One Flesh, One Hand.
yeah, and there's a moment where Alfred takes a pill that turns him into like Superman's equal for a little bit and beats the shit out of Superman for like hurting Batman. I love Alfred. Alfred's such a great character.
All right, I'm with you on that. Okay, marry Alfred.
Yeah, we're marrying Alfred. We're resurrecting
Loveday.
Oh, I was going to resurrect Loveday.
Oh, why?
Why? Because I feel like Kitharia was really sad. Yeah, Kitharia was really sad about having to kill her. So I want to resurrect her. Or him, her.
Her.
I think her.
Resurrect her.
Although we don't know. I just assume.
And then I guess we're killing Christabel and fucking Pyrrha. Pyrrha?
I think that's as good of a choice as any.
Yeah.
I'm there with that. Loveday's the only one we've been introduced to, so.
Marie, do you have an opinion on this one?
Yes. I'm going to go ahead and kill Christabel. I am going to marry Loveday, fuck Pyrrha, and resurrect Alfred.
Nice. I like this. Okay. Before I forgot to tell you during Meme Watch, I don't know that this is a meme. I don't know it was intentional, but Christabel, there's just an amazing song by Robert Earl Keen called Christabel, which I'll just send to you. And it's weird and eerie and I like it. So that's cool. But I also kill Christabel. And I am between whether I want to... I don't know if I want to marry Pyrrha or fuck Pyrrha. I think I want to fuck Pyrrha and marry Alfred. And that leaves me with resurrecting Loveday, just...
So did we do the exact same thing?
No, that's what
you and
John
I did
and I
the same.
did.
Yeah, I think I did the same as John and Brooke.
Yep. Woohoo.
What did I do different? Well, we'll figure it out when we listen.
All right, last one. FMKR. Kitharia's dead body, Commander Wake, the Sleeper, and the Two-Hander Sword.
I don't fucking know.
All right, well,
I'm not
Commander
fucking
Wake sounds like it's a military title, so I'm assuming he's part of the cohort or something, so we're definitely killing him.
Oh, wow, you have something against it, just by principle.
We're resurrecting Kitharia.
Why are you resurrecting Kitharia?
What else? Are you going to marry her dead body? I'm out of options.
Kill her. We can
She's
kill her
already
and
dead.
we'll resurrect. Yeah, but it's a dead body. We were fucking dead bodies in the last one. They're all dead tabs.
I don't know what the we thing is here.
It's a little confusing. Resurrection. If you're not resurrecting them, does that mean they're still a dead body?
Yes.
We're killing Kitharia's dead body. It's not. Nothing's off the table here. all of them are options for each category, right? And then Commander Wake. I don't know. We can.
I'm marrying the Sleeper and I'm fucking the Two-Handed Sword. Two-Hander Sword.
No, I'm not fucking the sword. Hell no. That sounds so painful.
I'm assuming it's like the personification of a two-handed sword, and that sounds awesome. If it's a literal sword, then obviously we're gonna have problems.
Okay, I'm taking this somewhere different.
It's a literal sword.
I will marry Commander Wake, just because seems like an actual human. Maybe we'll fuck the Sleeper. Don't know what that means. And we will resurrect the sword.
These are strong choices, Marie. I don't.
This is fucking diabolical, and I hate you for it. I'm going to be like Gideon, and I'm going to
marry the sword.
The sword.
Sorry, you and me. We're both in on that.
Okay. Yeah. So we're going to marry the sword. We're going to kill the Sleeper, I guess resurrect Kitharia, and marry Commander Wake, and that's a bad idea.
I'm definitely not marrying Commander Wake.
Bad.
So here's the thing. I definitely kill the Sleeper. Sleeper's too scary. No, but wait. We married the Two-Hander Sword. We were marrying the sword.
Oh, right. So wait.
So you gotta kill someone.
I'll definitely fuck. I would
fuck Commander Wake.
Yeah,
No
marrying, but I would fuck.
All right, we're there. Well, these were some truly mesmerizing choices that our baby lictors made. I would judge them if their prefrontal cortexes had finished developing. And speaking of premature and underdeveloped things, it's time for rampant speculation.
Hey now.
Act 4. You've cracked the elaborate code.
See, again, Harrow's such a bitch.
To be fair, though, that is at a moment when it's like, Ortis, Ortis, you just read the sentence back to me. I was asking for more information. Anyway, now is the time when we ask our little lictor siblings to give us their conspiracy theories. So, Brooke and John, what the fuck is happening?
Just because we were talking about it most recently, is Harrow insane and who the fuck is the body?
I'm assuming the body is the body that's in a locked tomb for now, because it sounds like a woman's face.
I definitely thought that was going to be Nona, but now I'm not so sure, partly because she's not in the Dramatis Personae. I really don't know where Nona's coming from, but maybe it's Anastasia? We've gotten introduced to somebody new? But then again, like, this has to be... Let's see, we're told that whatever's in the tomb is the cost of the resurrection. So it still could be what you have always said, which is like it's the OG, like god, maybe of Earth, or like a devil, maybe.
It's interesting because the Emperor of the Nine Houses has AL as his guardian, and Anastasia is the dead lictor. I don't know. I still think the body is like the literal embodiment of death, or like the devil, or evil, or whatever. But I don't know if Harrow's insane so much as like something similar to what happened in The Mysterious Study of Dr. Sex, where like a fragment of the body, or like the spirit of death, like got into Harrow's brain. And so she's not insane so much as she's got like a soul fragment.
I agree. Like that, there is a possibility that something entered her when she went into the tomb, right?
Yeah. That's what I'm going with. So Harrow might not be insane. She just might think she's insane because
she's seeing something that nobody else can. And
yeah.
It's maybe some sort of spiritual thing.
Yes.
Do we think that what she's seeing is a revenant or?
No idea.
Yeah, I don't know either. TBD. Moving on. What the fuck does "this isn't how it happens" means?
I'm leaning. That's normally a phrase uttered by someone who knows how time and or the future works.
Yeah, like a moment of foresight, right?
Yeah, like a Doctor Strange, or like, you know, any fortune teller. Like, I don't know. And since it does very closely mirror a very similar scene in Gideon, I'm wondering if death has a plan and this is like it isn't going to plan. I don't know. Like,
so you think it might be unrelated to the conversation that Harrow and Ortis were having?
No, I think it's directly related, but I think like if it really is like a fragment of death inside Harrow that's like making her see that, like death is saying this isn't how it happens, like maybe like death has an idea of like what's supposed to happen.
Do we think that as like a larger comment, or do we think it's directly tied to the like Ortis will not be your Cav?
I thought it was directly related to the context of the conversation and Harrow telling Ortis that he needs to be the cavalier for the lictor process, but yeah.
Confusing. Okay. Mm-hmm. Going back to the prologue. Yeah, so we started touching on this. We've been introduced to heralds, which are these insects that have been sent by a resurrection beast, which is also called the
Stellar Revenant.
We have the Emperor's death coming. Like, so the specific questions that we have are, you know, what has Harrow done that could be turned around to just rip apart this resurrection beast and save the galaxy and the Emperor? Why is she half a lictor? What's eating at you the most?
So I guess we can start with the heralds. They seem like they're insects that are around, like if they're bees, they like follow a queen or something, or like some type of like figure. So like the resurrection beast, which is described as a stellar revenant, so like some interstellar body spirit. But then it's also described as like living in this like liminal. Hold on, Muzzy's losing his mind.
What'd you do? Just smother him?
No, just the resurrection beast is described as stellar revenant, so like a spirit of like a celestial object or something, and then also like like a liminal. It's like really cool phrase to describe it. Like, God, such a good writer. A verminous liminal mass. So liminal is just like the space in between. So it's like half dead, half alive, like between life and death.
Right. Well, when we're in the river, I mean, like, I think Marie was trying to, like, kind of gauge what we knew and expected when we get introduced to the river. And, like, we've been prepared for a river, right? Like, to some extent, like, this is something that we've been talking about for a long time, is that there's this theme of, like, the river Styx. This is where, like, souls pass on their way to the final resting place. So, like, to some extent, like, this all tracks, right? Like we're in a river, it's a liminal space, there's this liminal being that is taken up space there. What it means is unclear, but we do know that this is some sort of a war we're fighting against the resurrection beast and its heralds, and it seems to be related to like a vengeful stellar revenant.
Yes.
So that's kind of like the setting we're getting here, but I was really stuck on the things that Ianthe was saying to Harrow about Harrow could turn this around. With them at their full power, they could rip apart this resurrection beast, save the galaxy and the Emperor. And then at the end, we're told that she's half a lictor. Oh, and there's also something about like, Ianthe says, what are they? They're just another corpse to drag behind it. They're dead already. Like to me, my interpretation is that she's talking about their calves. And like, we already know the last thing we got in Gideon was that Harrow really wanted to give Gideon's soul back and resurrect Gideon. My harebrained guess at this point is that Harrow found a way to give Gideon's soul back, maybe to Gideon's body, which is MIA at the moment. And what that means is that she's not really a full lictor anymore. She's not at her full power. She's not able to like maybe tap into the full powers of death that would help save her at the end. And without her being at full power, I don't know why it would be that like Ianthe and Gideon are like more powerful than the other three lictors and the Emperor before. But whatever is happening here, these decisions have kind of lost them the war. These decisions that Harrow made to give Gideon back her soul or something maybe has had really high costs that are related to what we're doing right now. And it's also left her very weak.
Yeah, I'm wondering if Harrow like freed Gideon's soul and then lictored like a different soul or something, because clearly something's still operating. Or we talked about Gideon not
being like normal, right? Like maybe she was two souls also. So like maybe there's like a remnant left over that even once you get rid of Gideon, there's still something there.
When Harrow's in the river, like her body's clearly still doing stuff, right? Like she like
she's
ends
still
up in the
able to access death, and that's something we've been told that only lictors can do. That was what we learned at the end of Gideon, I think, was that only lictors can go into the river. So
I think our consensus is that she did something with Gideon's spirit and that's what's causing...
trash herself, and that's the setting.
And if she was a full part, they wouldn't have a problem. And then, so then the other question you have here is, who is Gideon? Because Gideon's not mentioned in the...
She's not in the Dramatis Personae, no.
No, but she's in a note in the first book. So like a character that we, I guess, are not meeting in this book, because we meet every character that's in Gideon the Ninth Personae, I guess even the Emperor at the end. But
so there's two Gideons that this question refers to when we ask who is Gideon, right? Like again, like we think that there was something special about the Gideon Nav, but then there's also like the very first Gideon who was in Canaan House, was part of some sort of lictor cav pair and created the winnowing test, but doesn't seem to have become a lictor. And I think we've talked about this timeline. I think maybe you've said before that like that the tests had to be set up after the lictors. Like we already had to we knew how to become a lictor, and then they set up these tests, sort of the situation. So that's like some weird, that timeline seems to fit, right? That Gideon of G&P did not become a lictor, but rather did this winnowing test after for some reason somehow. But we don't know where this person went. But Cytherea knew them.
See, now I'm very interested in this. I need to flesh this out, and it'll probably happen soon. Is that like the timeline is so messy at this point, because I'm wondering if Anastasia was the first person to do all of the lictor tests, because she's from the Ninth House, but the Ninth House didn't exist when they became lictors, right? Like when the resurrection happened, like they had to create the Ninth House.
I don't know, but the Cav is the one that gave us the insight that their last name is a Ninth House name, as if that person the Cav was born with the Ninth House name, and then they became the Ninth House? Yeah,
like a slightly late, it was the Ninth House, the Ninth House was a later addition to the other houses, and so...
Is it though, or was it just... I'm not certain that... I don't know if that's true. I think the house already existed. It just wasn't supposed to exist for very long. It was supposed to die off, which is a rude thing to do to anybody. Just recently.
Yeah.
Anyway, my other left field option is that Gideon is from outside the home system.
Oh, interesting.
But I don't really know what that means. Just an idea to toss out there.
My only other piece of rampant speculation is that maybe it sounds like death, or like... I'm still 100% all in on like when the Emperor resurrected everyone, he like or they became necromancers, like let death out into the universe, and that's like corrupting things or fucking up the universe in some way. And there's actually like a random throwaway line. I know we talked about this last week on the Mysterious Study of Dr. Sex, where his crackpot theory is that there was a huge spike in thanergy and thalergy right after the resurrection. So I literally, and also one of the characters' names, I forget which one, is like the daughter of Pandora. Like one of these characters' names is like related to Pandora. I was looking through Wikipedia articles. Like one of these characters is related to Pandora in some capacity. I'm trying to remember. So It sounds like this was like a half-dead, corrupted planet, and we're killing it.
Pyrrha is Pandora's daughter.
That is Pyrrha? Wait, but Pyrrha is also the one who survived the flood.
In Greek mythology, Pandora's daughter Pyrrha was the first child born of a mortal mother, and she and her husband, Deucalion, were the sole survivors of the Great Deluge, tasked with repopulating the Earth.
Born to a mortal mother, but also Pandora was her mother? What?
Maybe Pandora's the first mortal?
Pandora's given the box by the gods to guard, right?
It has all the evils in the world, and at the very bottom is hope. And she closes it and keeps hope, but releases all the evils into the world.
Yeah. So I'm going with the death is out there, and that's why we're killing planets, and that's where these beasts come from. It's like they're the dying, corrupted planets / things of death spreading out into the universe. Anyway, that's what we're going with.
I think that's reasonable at the moment.
Well, I guess we'll see if any of that happens next time when John and Brooke come back to the present in Harrow the Ninth, chapters 1 and 2.
And if you, dear listener, are, like me and John, reading along for the first time, make sure you find our reading calendar on our website, frontline5th.podbean.com, or follow us on Instagram or TikTok, which are both linked in the show notes. If you like this podcast, please share it with your friends and give us a 5-star rating anywhere you can. And if you didn't like it, feel free to lie. Now head off to sleep, my baby necros. Mommy Marie and Daddy Hannah have some very deep spoilers to discuss.
Get in, losers. We're going speculating.
John took your line.
I was busy making notes.
Act 5. This isn't how it happens.
Warning, this portion of the podcast is 98% spoilers and 2% snickering.
Seriously, we will spoil anything and everything in the series up through Nona the Ninth. And if that's not what you want, turn back now. Before we get into their rampant speculation, I really wanted to ask you, what was your experience? Can you remember what your experience was the first time you read this prologue in Parados?
I think I've said this before. My experience of reading Harrow was that I read Gideon and pretty immediately launched into Harrow, and I read Harrow and just gobbled it up. So I read Harrow in probably 4 days or something ridiculous, right? And so I never, if I'm really enjoying a book, I don't let myself sit with it and think about it and speculating. I'm just what's happening next? What's happening next? What's happening next? Which means that by the time that I got to Harrow and you get to the end, you're well, wait a sec. What the fuck was going on at the beginning? I actually want to read it and understand it this time. And so I was I literally had the feeling it wasn't it was on a Kindle, so it wasn't a physical book, but I literally had the feeling of I read the last page and then was
flip to the first page.
Okay, so I'm flipping to page 1 and I was except you can't actually do that. That just feels a little too obsessive. So what we're going to do instead is that I know that there's audiobook versions. So what I did instead of literally turning to page 1 and rereading the book immediately again, I got introduced. That was my first introduction to Moira Quirk. And that was actually my first thing that actually made me start enjoying audiobooks at all.
She's so fucking good. Yeah. We collectively have a crush on Moira Quirk.
Yeah, we collectively do. I thought that it was too insane to literally go back to page 1, but it wasn't too insane. I remember I literally listened to the book over the next 2 days. So I spent a whole week just completely and totally immersed in Harrow and doing nothing but
hilarious.
Harrow.
You literally read through Harrow twice in a week. That's delightful, yes. And I love that. Yeah. So when I read it the first time, so again, this is something that's it drives me nuts the way people who have mental disorders are depicted in any media, because they're so often written by people who don't have mental disorders, and it's just inaccurate. My complaint is not about the stigma. My complaint is about the accuracy. And so when you read something like this, I loved that it was in second person because it forces you to feel like you're inside of her mind. And part of the thing about being insane, especially when you're aware you're insane, and I also want to be clear, so what I have is different, right? I occasionally will have mild hallucinations, but I'm always aware that they're not real. They're always on the surface above what is actually happening there. And so this is not, psychosis is where you don't know that you're hallucinating. technically, actually, Harrow does not have psychosis. She knows that something is off. Asterisk, and we can come back to it later. But so it's a really interesting thing when you know something is off and you're constantly checking yourself. It really works for second person narration because you are always kind of doing that second level thought where you're like, what did I just think and why did I think it? So it actually like worked doubly well for me. So I was all in. I was completely convinced she was insane. However, when I read the Parados and read this perfect recapitulation of the scene that I knew had happened in Gideon, I went full Abigail Pent. I said, absolutely not, out loud.
Right.
I was like, and the other thing is that literally from the Dramatis Personae and from the fact that Ortis was in this like recapitulation of the scene and that there was an Ortis all caps in the like lictors, and I knew that I had been obsessed with this note. I knew right away. I was like, she can't think the word Gideon, and the first, or I guess the second saint, the third saint, the saint of duty is Gideon as well. I was like all in on that. I was like, everything is, it's definitely not an Ortis. So I knew that from the get-go, but the book keeps fucking gaslighting you. As you go deeper and deeper into it, I started to get more, like, less and less sure about that initial assumption, which had been the correct initial assumption. Yeah.
Well, I think maybe that was somewhat like what my experience was like the very first time, is being like, well, that is like, yeah, that isn't how it happened. Like, why are we doing this fake history? But then you keep getting more and more evidence, quote unquote, evidence that this fake history is what happened, but it's just slightly. And so you're like, you know that there's something wrong. I did not pick up on the Gideon thing until later, like maybe like when Mercy's like tapping her head or something. Yes. Or like later on when
I didn't know she had done it to herself. Oh, yeah, who's tampering with your temporal lobe or whatever.
Or like basically like when they say something and then they're like, who are you talking about? Like at some point, like before the big reveal, I did figure out that Ortis meant Gideon.
Yeah.
And you were like, what did you do? So it's like, I wasn't ahead. I wasn't very much further ahead of like finding out that she truly did the lobotomy and like made herself forget. But I was slightly ahead so that you're like, oh, that's what you did. But you still have no clue why you're doing this bubble thing. You're like, so what is actually happening to your memories?
Well, exactly. So like these memories that she seems to be having with Ortis are so fucking insane and so clearly wrong. And I had actually read Gideon like many, many months beforehand. So there was a big gap of time. So there's this part of me that's like, am I wrong? Was I wrong about who died first? I can't remember all their names. And like, so I'm like gaslighting myself, being like, maybe this was how it happens. But also the existence of this line, this isn't how it happens, over and over, is it like, it's explicit. And I really appreciate that. Meanwhile, however, Brooke, in her fucking infinite wisdom, made a poll that I did not make literally until Gideon wakes up in Harrow's body, which is that Gideon is narrating. And that's because I was so ready to experience this as like an experiential insane thing that I was missing the like direct explicit clues that are right there. It was funny too, because I remember being annoyed. I was like, this isn't really how Harrow thinks. Harrow doesn't think with all of these like kind of memes and swear words and like
it's half and half. It's half and half. Yeah. I've gone through and I've started like highlighting things and being like, oh, that's Gideon.
This is so funny. This is like in Nona when they have like a chart of how many like ass jokes. Right? You know, you're like trying to figure out which parts come from which little fragment of soul. Anyway, so I was like, I fucking loved that Brooke made that poll right away. Like I was goddamn genius. I have one more little just like hilarious note that I realized on this reread and not the other ones, which is that in this chapter in the Parados, Harrow says that Ortis loves alternate histories where he wasn't forced to go off and fight. And I was like, God damn it.
I know.
I was like, we all love that alternate history, Tamsin.
Oh, and I always thought it was strange that this is the only time that it seems that we see her alternate history glitch in the bubble. But this is also the only time that they say out loud to her Gideon Nav. And she needs to overwrite it, and it's her bubble resetting itself. And so that's why he says the line again. Yes. And she goes, what?
Oh my God. I fucking love that too, because I actually literally, even knowing everything I know, every time I read it, I'm like, oh, did my eyes stutter? Did I just skip? Like, I have to be like, no. It's written twice, word for word. Like, I feel like we've had this conversation before.
Yeah, I was trying to figure out like why that only happened that one time. And I think this time around, I figured out that the reason it happened that time is because
It's the only time, yeah.
It's the only time that somebody says Gideon's name to her.
Yes. It's interesting,
or at least
too,
that
because
we see that written on screen.
it is also, I believe, the only time in the bubble that we get the body. The body shows up with her the whole time while she's on Mithraeum. I mean, until the end. But like, I think it's the only time the body is in the bubble. And that's also very interesting. And it makes me wonder, like, we still don't know if Ortis didn't notice the body or if Ortis was not able to notice the body. And that made me go into this like spiral while we were talking about it, where I was like, oh my God, can a soul be inside of a brain, inside of a bubble, inside of a, like, I was like, how many layers deep are we?
There's one more thing that I want to talk about, and then we'll get into their theories.
Perfect.
And so the one more thing is that Parados means the chorus and the first song of the chorus, but it also, I got to find my note and like find the exact definition, because there's another definition of Parados, and that is a bank of earth built behind a trench or a military emplacement to protect soldiers from surprise attack from the rear.
God. I fucking love this. This is, I mean, sorry, that is a fucking hardcore deep cut. Tamsin must have been real proud when she thought of that, because it is brilliant, because it's a play she's putting on, and it tells you that if you had been paying attention, which I wasn't. I was not paying enough attention. I love, even Brooke looked up and saw that it was a Greek chorus. And then I love the idea that it's actively a thing she has constructed to protect her own brain, to like, she's trying to scrub the memories, recreate new sets of memories that can sub in so that she is protected from this. And it's ironic that actually she almost, it opens her up to more attack.
Her assumption, which is like based on truth because she is insane. And so, but her assumption that everything that goes on that she can't find a good reason for, like, it makes it just like this, what? When Abigail goes, have you ever considered that you actually might be haunted?
Haunted?
And
yes.
So then it's like, actually, no, it's both things. We know when she goes back in Nona that she did, like, part of what she's thinking about to herself about how Crux and why Crux was such an important person to her was because Crux was her person to let her know that she could ask. It was her. He was the person who knew that she was not well and that would watch her go into these catatonic states and that would see everything that was happening. And he was the one who took care of her.
Yeah. Yeah.
And like his protectiveness of her makes so much more sense knowing that. And so it's like the double thing of her just being like, no, obviously it's me. And then Abigail being like, but what if it isn't just your brain?
You. Well, okay, so query. I think that the way to like think about this book is that Harrow is indeed insane because she literally has performed a lobotomy on her. Her thoughts are not all connected. She is misunderstanding her history. She does not know what's going on. The fact that is happening because of a choice rather than because of like some automatic thing doesn't change the fact that she is experiencing mixed realities. Okay. So then we have the bubble, which is a real thing she's experiencing, but not in the way she thinks she is, right? We have the body, and this is something that I want to know your opinion on. Is real life Harrow pre-lobotomy? Did she see the body?
Yes.
So she has been, as Brooke actually pointed out, like there's been a fragment of soul that has been infecting the Harrow since she saw the body in the tomb.
Absolutely. Absolutely 100%, because otherwise the soul swapping and body swapping that happens in Nona makes no sense.
Yes. Yeah.
But additionally, I think that it is also true that she hallucinates the body.
Yeah. Yes.
And that she sees the body when she is not actually being haunted by the body.
Interesting. So, and I have mixed feelings there because I actually I like the idea that she literally is just interacting kind of with a soul outside of herself that is real, and those interactions are real with a real separate soul, as opposed to something that her mind is concocting, that these conversations are not nothing. I think she's having real conversations with the body. So I think it's less of a hallucination.
The only reason that I think that it's possible that it's a hallucination is that I think that her hallucinations started before the body. Like, we'll have to, like, kind of watch for the history
Yeah.
of, like, how she talks about the history of, like, her mental state.
Yeah, but the problem is we don't know how far back she scrubbed. We don't know how far back she had to erase because Harrow and Gideon grew up in each other's pockets. Like, Gideon is a name that should come up over and over, even in the absence of Canaan House and lictors.
But I think that she scrubs stuff that touches on Gideon, but she doesn't scrub stuff that touches solely on her. So if she's talking about
There we
her
go.
personal
I'll take that.
experience
Yes.
before she meets the body, then she's talking about the fact that she's having hallucinations
Okay.
and trouble figuring out what reality is before she starts being haunted, in which case afterwards it is both
Okay.
haunting and her own mental illness.
Yes, I'm into it. I love this. Oh, okay. This was fun. We'll have to keep track. Shall we talk about Brooke and John?
Yes.
So they started with this question that you and I are just debating now. Is Harrow insane and who the fuck is the body? They go through iterations of who the body could be, right? They do accurately touch on it being the body in the tomb. And then they go on their wild speculations about how the body in the tomb could be Old God or Death or Nona. And you're like, yes, but also.
And also Harrow, Brooke says Harrow might have taken a piece of something, or there was a piece of something that left with her from the tomb.
Yes, which I thought was genius. I was like, Brooke, you beautiful. Oh God, sorry. She's showing up right now. This is our glittery little third house Brooke. I'm so proud. They also actually mentioned that it could be Anastasia. And I thought that was funny too, that they were like, the guardian is A.L. and Anastasia's name starts with A. And I was like, you just saw the Dramatis Personae where there are no fewer than 3 different A names, like Augustine, Alfred, Anastasia. Like, it's not like it's an uncommon letter, but I loved it. It made me laugh really hard. It also, actually, sorry, while we're here, I didn't think of it then, but it's interesting that neither of them had questions about A.L. in terms of the fact that all of the other Cavaliers have names that are associated with their houses and they have 2 names. They don't have initials. I don't know. Like, I would have asked a question as simple as like, well, is a guardian the same as a Cavalier? Although,
Yeah.
I would have is a strong term because I didn't in real life, but I can make my own memories
just
too.
assuming like, yeah, he's the emperor, he's God, he's doing stuff different. It's like whatever. Like,
Yeah.
obviously his shit is weird, and it has nothing to do with the Cavaliers. Also, can I just say in FMKR, I loved that both of us were immediately like, yeah, fuck Christabel. Like, kill her. We don't care.
I can't with her. Oh my God. It like, sorry,
She's
the
so
whole thing
willing
made
to
me
die
laugh
and
so-
like do like, you know.
Oh yeah, she's ready to go. And
she's ready to
I don't
go.
know.
It's fine.
I
We
guess I'm
wouldn't
just
even
not a
have to
nun
kill her.
person.
We would just say, I think that we're just not going to get along, Christabel. And she'd be like, okay, fine.
She'd be
And she'd
"No
like kill
worries."
herself.
Yeah, that was funny. I also like, it just made me, I really have never been quite so proud as I am of just having us do Wake over and over and
so
over for
funny.
FMKR. Oh God.
So mean.
Yeah, but so this is actually, I mean, that kind of leads us back, right? There's this weird phenomenon in Harrow that is something that you don't really think of, partially because in Gideon the Ninth, you're so focused on the ninth house magic that you're thinking about skeletons a lot, and you sort of forget to think about souls and revenants and ghosts. And Harrow is all ghost magic all day. Harrow is being haunted by no fewer than 2 to 3 individuals. Like, it was actually very impressive. Also, you know, Brooke says that her half-baked theory is that potentially Harrow wanted to save Gideon and found a way to do it. And that's why she's only half a lictor. And I was like, yes, completely accurate. However, she didn't make it all the way to the fact that in order to do that, she had to forget who Gideon was. So they're still waiting for Gideon to appear, right? They're still waiting for Gideon to be brought up.
How many times do you think they're going to be like, where the fuck is Gideon?
It's my favorite though, because they noticed that the capitalization of Ortis in the Dramatis Personae, and then the fact that Ortis Nigenad is capitalized in one place and one place only in the Parados. And they talk about how they know that G and P must be somewhere, but none of them are G and P. And what they didn't do was go and look for the only P. on that list. Sorry.
And then we talked about Pyrrhus so many times. We talked about Pyrrhus so fucking much.
Oh, it's really good. And I really, I do love that Pyrrha is the child of Pandora, the first child of a mortal mother, and is one of these last survivors that specifically has to repopulate the earth. It's all about resurrection. It's an interesting name choice.
Oh, also, Brooks pull that Harrow freed Gideon's soul, and that's why she's only half a lictor.
Yeah, exactly. Sorry, yes. I thought that was very impressive that she came up with that, because it's really on the nose. But she also goes farther, right? One of her things was that maybe part of it is because Gideon is not normal, who maybe had 2 souls to start with. And it made me wonder, vis-a-vis Horcruxes, how far can you shred your soul? How many different people can you haunt before you are no longer enough of a person? Because Gideon's soul, I guess, is only in one place right now.
It's still sort of in Harrow.
Yeah. So, because it's powering her, she's still getting like hella lictor powers while she's awake. They really did a very good job actually thinking about the heralds and the resurrection beast in a way that I had not anticipated. They totally clocked Stellar Revenant, so it feeds into John's theory. He's ready to go with that. I don't know. The reason I put bee skull was just because it looked vaguely like a bee skull. The heralds they clearly have that overheating power of the bees like you sent us.
I think Augustine describes them as just the worst bee.
Uh-huh.
Because it's like half human, half bee, half like...
Oh, they've got stingers and acid and like all sorts of fucked up
right, but they also have
like
hands and feet.
Yeah.
Or like only hands and hands as feet. The way that they're thinking about the lictor timeline is leading them so far astray.
I have a whole note about that too. I was like, the resurrection is not the same as lictorhood. And we actually know that, again, like the math where you're like, this is not calculus. 10,000 years and 9,000 years. There's like a big gap there. But it is, to be fair, complicated by the fact that some of the lictors really were people who were resurrected and some of them were not. Some of them were from the second wave. So I'll be interested to see if
it takes a lot of digging to figure out the timeline and when things happen and all of that. Like they haven't, they like kind of are like, oh, I think that this is such and such a house. But then not picking up that the houses don't match with first, second, third state.
Right. Yeah, and they will get a little bit more of that. They'll get a little bit more clarity on that coming up. And actually at Cytherea's funeral, we will get to hear that she was from the second wave. And I wonder if they'll take anything away from that. But I didn't when I read this book the first time. I had to read through Nona and come back. Yeah. I do wonder, so they brought up the fact that the trials, do you think the trials were set up concomitantly with becoming lictors, or were they something that were set up after I think so too. Because I'm not sure they ever planned for there to be more lictors. I think they were practicing. They're setting up challenges to practice on with one another. I think they probably practiced more than once. It wasn't like get one key, never go back to that room.
They were talking about the Pyrrha's challenge or whatever when Pyrrha is yelling at Calamities because of the way that they use the way that Pal uses necromancy, or no, I think they fuse for a moment, or they're both in the body at the same time in order
Pyrrha's
to take care of the problem on the beach. And
Pyrrha
says, don't you fucking do that. Like you're messing with her brain chemistry. You're going to kill her. So she must be yelling at Pal. You're going to kill her and all of this. She makes a comment there that like the challenge that she set up was like nobody would even, the only person who would go through that challenge willingly multiple times was Christabel, right? Because she didn't mind being trepanned on the regular.
Oh my God, yeah. Which, sorry, is fascinating in a number of ways. Yeah, but I really like, Christabel does live for, why the fuck would they call her the Saint of Joy? I feel like, God, Christabel was the Saint of Duty before all else. Duty before, anyway, we can get into that too.
Didn't have really the intellect like the names you normally find in a sandwich.
So cold. It's so fucking cold. It's really good.
Or an orange. The lines in this book, like this truly is.
Oh my
like, this
God. You were talking about how Harrow is bitchy, but holy shit. Harrow, maybe that's it, is like Harrow actually gets really bitchy in this book, and I don't even notice because the level of bitchiness is so small compared to the shit that Augustine and fucking Mercy pull out on the regular.
I think what it is like I have such sympathy for Ortis, even though he's like a sad and squashy lump of a human.
Well, he's wonderful.
Like, why are you being so mean to him?
Yeah, don't be mean to him. He came back. He's trying to do his duty. He's trying to be a bigger person and
being so good for you.
Also, he's a great poet. Like, stop fucking yelling about his epic poetry. That's a hard thing to do. Write 18 books of epic poetry? Fucking phenomenal. Yes. My God. That's almost twice as many feet as Shakespeare would bother to do.
Good Lord.
I weirdly am interested in Augustine. Like, Augustine has this like really like dark thing where you can tell there's actually a lot going on under the surface that he is fully just numbed out and made into just this like core of empty spite. And on top of it, he's all charming and wonderful and but also vicious. But like deep inside, I'm like, bud, you need some fucking drugs. Like I can hook you up with some SSRIs. Like I am concerned.
He's terrifying to me. He's terrifying because the way like at the very end, like we're skipping way too far ahead and I'm going to have to cut all of this.
Now.
At the very end, where he's just like, like God's like trying to get like the promises back of like, are you going to serve me? And Augustine's just like, nope.
And just sends the entire Mithraeum into the depths. Yeah, it's fabulous though, because again, this is like someone where you're like, this is kind of a dick, but he has fucking morals. They're just weird, interestingly aligned morals, but he's like unwilling to play this game anymore. I don't know. I think he's an interesting character. I feel genuinely sad that we do not get to meet Gideon, Saint of Duty, Gideon the First, properly. We meet him in the context of him trying to murder occasionally. Many of the conversations that are actually interesting between Harrow and him on board are probably with Pyrrha. And I can like,
except for like the weird one outside the incinerator. That's him.
No. I don't think it is. And I will like, his eyes are specifically described as dark during that period. Yeah. I mean, we can go back and forth. We'll dig in, but I think it's Pyrrha who's doing that. But the only one that I think, I think they're all Pyrrha.
I think he says, well, sometimes I lose time, and he's really fucking weird about it.
You're right. I think that actually is Gideon. I agree. That is Gideon. But there's an interesting pivot point right outside the incinerator. For a moment,
his eyes are dark.
It's Pyrrha.
It's his eyes.
No.
Pyrrha if his eyes are dark, it's Pyrrha's eyes. Sorry. It's Pyrrha in there, in his eyes.
Dark eyes. Pyrrha says, through Gideon one's body, like use fresh blood wards. We can't drain thallergy or something like that. And then God and Augustine and Mercy come in and the eyes change. And so I think the rest of that conversation is legitimately with Gideon. Yeah. But it's always, I just think he's an interesting person that we never get to meet. I don't know what his feelings are. I don't know where he stands on God. We know where everybody else stands on God. And I actually would really like to know. He's a person who followed his best friends to the ends of the earth and well beyond, but he also seems like a decent dude. The last thing that I wanted to bring up, which is not related to this at all, so just pivot, was a really like funny thing where John was realizing, she says she's not a full lictor, but her body is still moving while she's like under. He's realizing because it moves out into the hallway. And I didn't know how to be like, Mercy drags her there to try and kill her faster. I was like, way to pick up on the details.
And then drags her. I believe that like when Gideon wakes up, she sees the smear of blood where she's been dragged after she's been stabbed. And it's literally like Mercy put the trash out in the hall to like be picked up.
Yeah. I love that you love her.
I think I just have a lot of understand. I was going to say empathy. Empathy is too strong. I have a lot of understanding for where Mercy is coming from, just simply because of my current stress level.
Yeah. Genuinely sorry, but I hear you. I get it. Yeah.
I am not graceful under pressure, and neither is Mercy. We just talk with a lot of exclamation points.
Brooke was saying that maybe Ortis is the kind of person who can like, you can tell that he's talking in caps, or you can tell he's talking in, I was like, I don't think that's true, but I didn't want to tell her that like Mercy is that kind of person. Mercy, you can hear like, all of the punctuation.
She's going to meet her so soon. I'm so excited.
With that, should we close it out?
Yeah, we should.
Act 6. See you next time, my little nunlets. Well, it looks like we've got a whole new book to search for Easter eggs in, so we'll be back next week to watch Harrow vomit a bunch in Harrow the Ninth Chapters 1 and 2. If you want to follow along with us, our reading calendar is available on our website at frontline5th.podbean.com, and you can follow us on Instagram and TikTok, which are linked in the show notes. If you enjoyed this podcast, please tell your friends and give us a 5-star rating anywhere you can. And of course, if you didn't enjoy the podcast, feel free to lie. We have a Patreon, which you can join for access to bonus content every month, and you can become a patron. And we love, love, love our patrons at patreon.com/frontline5th. Finally, if you have any fun theories you'd like to share with us, feel free to email us at frontline5th@gmail.com. And with that, I'll just remind you not to unlock any tombs or enter any doors without permission because, ghosts. Bye!
Frontline Fifth is a Locked Tomb podcast conceived by Maria Adamako and starring Maria Adamako, Hannah Grunwald, Brooke Anderson, and John Ryan. Our cover art was designed and created by Maria Adamako, who also edited this episode. Our fabulous music was composed and recorded by Blake Anderson. The Locked Tomb series is a completely dope-ass book series by Tamsin Muir, who does not know we exist and is in no way affiliated with this podcast.